People often ask me, like, how is living in LA different than living in New York City? And I've made videos, like, on the general differences between living in those two cities. I currently live now in New York City. But I did live in LA for 4 years while working on my PhD in clinical psychology. So I moved to LA, it was in 2016, and I left in 2020. But while I was in LA, I've had some very adventurous experiences, to say the least. And today, I was just kind of reflecting on some of my dating experiences and how they are different, like drastically different than my experiences here dating in New York City or any other place that I've lived in Atlanta. Although Atlanta, I don't know, Atlanta may have topped the cake, especially when it came to dating in a space that I've never experienced before, right? Like dating in this world, which I wrote about in my autobiographical fictional erotica fantasy story called Dying to Submit. That experience, I would say, may have topped the cake of all of my dating experiences, though that was very unique, but we're not going to talk about that. But compared to like me dating in Florida, granted, Florida, I don't know. Florida has been some really bizarre, crazy experiences with dating. Because men are just, men, I feel like, men are weird. Men can be weird, right? And I've come across some very interesting characters, to say the least. So here in this video, I'm just going to recap just a few of my dating experiences while living in Los Angeles, California. It's just like, where do I begin? So when I moved to LA in 2016, I actually was partnered. I was with a guy that, on his sliding, but I was with a guy that I had been dating since I had moved to New York City in 2014. So I had been partnered for about 2 years. And here we go. So I've been partnered for about 2 years when I moved to LA. And the relationship was very rocky, toxic. Actually, in fact, moved to LA to get away from that relationship. But that's a whole nother story. And so me and the guy that I was dating at the time kind of like rekindled things, and so we were still together, and then we officially broke up. I told him, listen, this is not gonna work. Like, and this is, I think, something that is helpful for women who have difficulties just asserting your boundaries, right, and asserting what you want and what you don't want. But for me, I made it very clear, like, this is not going to work. I am not interested in you. I am not interested in continuing a relationship with you, because at this point it's just toxic, and it was like unredeemable, I would say, at that point. So me and that guy, we ended up going our separate ways December 2017. And then from there, I felt like a sigh of relief. I just felt like a whole big weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, and I was finally able to just step back into who I am. I think for a lot of women, like especially women like myself, who we like to cater to men, we're submissive, we are very attentive to what our partner needs, and sometimes we sacrifice, right? We make compromises at our own expense, right? To our own detriment. And I definitely can attest that I am one of those women. So that's why I've been very careful and calculated in my exploration of a partner who is compatible with who I am, because if not, you just end up back in those same cycles. But you have to definitely choose wisely. And so I can say that even though, yes, I've dated some interesting characters, I've learned a lot about myself and how to best navigate the whole dating scene. And that's the reason why I'm still single, which is actually a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you hear a woman like myself who's, obviously beautiful, in and out, and financially set, ambitious, successful, and still single, right? And I don't have any children. Um, but yeah, I learned from other people's mistakes and I learned from my own mistakes, and just looking at my own personal experiences in dating, taking what I've learned, right, and applying that to uh, potential partners moving forward, and just being able to easily weed out. But dating can be fun though. So even though, yes, I've experienced some horrific experiences, and I can literally write a book on this. But dating, I would say in and of itself, it can be fun when you just kind of let your hair down, right? You kind of loosen up your boundaries a little bit and you just kind of just go with the flow. And there are times when I do that. It hasn't happened recently. It did happen last year, I would say. Yeah, it did happen last year. I was dating a guy here in New York. But yeah, I feel like not too many people get to experience that aspect of me, and that's a good thing. But yeah, so after that relationship had ended December 2017, I'm just like, yeah, I can just live my life. I can reclaim my identity, because so much of who I was kind of tied up in and wrapped up in this idea, right, of building a sustainable relationship leading to marriage and kids and, the whole nine or whatever. And for me, this is why I sometimes become like perturbed or offended by men who kind of get it wrong, and they assume that just because a woman is single, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you, or why are you not partnered, and this and the other. And I get asked that question a lot, and it's just like, dating, I mean, men, you literally come a dime a dozen, all types of men. That's just how the cookie crumbles, right? I have never had any difficulty attracting a man. I've never had any difficulty in being with a man in terms of like creating a relationship, building a relationship. Like, as I've said before, over half of my adult life, I have been partnered and in relationships with men where like we live together, right? And that encompasses 3 long-term relationships with men that I built, something solid, something serious, and we cohabitated together. So I've lived that life that many women aspire to, right? It's not hard, I would say, to get a man or to attract a man. That's the easy part. I think what it is like when you have experienced different things, you just like, right? It's like automatically, as women, and I know for men too, who have lived, and dated and experienced things, your spidey senses kind of go off, and you're just like, red flag, red flag. So that's kind of like the space I'm in now, where I come across guys and it's just boom, red flag, red flag, red flag. And that just turns me off. But rewind. And we're getting to it. I know I'm just building up, right? Building up the anticipation and the excitement for these. Funny, I don't even know how to label these experiences that I've had in dating. That's why I just say adventurous dating in Los Angeles, because it has been one big roller coaster and adventurous time. And it just kind of popped up in my mind recently, because I actually have been kind of just reflecting on my life and, looking at where I am now and, the next steps I'm going to take. I always kind of do that, like a self-assessment or, evaluation of my life, where I've come from, where I stand, where I am, where I'm going to go, right? And I've actually been considering relocating back to LA. That's a whole nother vlog. I could get into that. That's a whole nother vlog. But LA had a lot to offer, aside from adventurous, crazy dating experiences, to say the least. And I've always considered myself to be like a person that, especially in my professional life, that is willing to be bi-coastal too. But I recall like one. I'm gonna talk about a few dating experiences, yo. But I went on so many dates. This is the thing, and for me, I feel like that's the reason why I have to kind of recenter myself and just set those boundaries and distance myself from the whole world of dating, because it can get crazy, and it's fun, and it's a learning experience. It's exciting, but then at the same time, it's just like. Hold the fuck up. So, I remember dating a police officer. I dated several guys, yo, like a lot of different men. When I say date, I'm just saying like in the context of getting to know a person, going out on dates, right? Where we actually met in person. It doesn't always have to result in having sex. Let's put it that way. But this is like the getting to know phase. We're dating, we're exploring each other, we're kind of being courted, right? And I remember dating a police officer. That situation was weird because for me, even though I identify myself as a submissive woman, I am a submissive baby girl, for those who understand the context of BDSM and that whole world, and that dynamic in terms of power exchange between a submissive and a dominant, a man. I definitely identify myself more so with a submissive baby girl aspect. Even though that is true for myself, it's like I am attracted to alpha men, and there's just no other way around it, right? And I get that sometimes guys, they come at me, and I tell them this, like I'm up front, I'm honest, and I'm like very, very transparent, pretty frank about my taste. And it's either you are or you're not. And the reality is most men are not alpha. I would say most men have been conditioned to be dominant in our American society. But dominance and alpha maleness is two different things, right? Most men in American society are dominant, but alphas are the head of the pack. Not everybody is the head of the pack. Some men are beta. You can be beta and still be dominant. And in my experiences, I'll have to be honest, like most men that I've dated, let's say in LA, were dominant, but not alpha. Kind of, sort of, though. I don't know. It's alpha can be complicated because within the sphere of alpha maleness, it's like I said, I'm attracted to alpha men. And what does that mean? So men who come with a degree of authority, right? Like they are on the highest rank of the totem pole or close to it. Like they rank high in our society as we know it, right? One may say those are your doctors, those are your attorneys, those are people who are high achieving people. Those are people who are highly intelligent, who of course usually are financially successful. That comes along with it. And just have a position in their society and also in their community that just ranks high. That's just what I'm attracted to. That shit turns me all the way on, right? And hence, no surprise why I'm attracted to Dr. Umar Johnson, clearly because he is the conscious leader of the Black community. Like he is the one that has taken that role, right, to lead a group of people. And so with that, it reflects upon the type of man that I attract. So yeah, I was dating like this police officer, and it was like so far so good up until the point where it came around to him, like us meeting, right? And we met, but I didn't like his energy. He had this nervous energy about him, and that to me is a turn off. Like if you are nervous around me, and I get it, everyone is human. I get it. I just don't like when men are more nervous than I am. Like, let me be nervous, right? And then you accommodate for my feelings of insecurity or my nervousness, right? I shouldn't have to be the one accommodating for your insecurity, right? Or your, like, that's why I'm saying, like, I like a certain type of man. And again, most men just don't fall within that paradigm. And so I get turned off and I'm just like, I'm not interested anymore. But yeah, it showed up for him where he was like presenting in that manner as if he was afraid. And I'm like, yo, you're a whole police officer, and he will come visit me dressed, because he was like on duty, dressed in his whole nine, right? In his uniform with a gun, but then be afraid. And I can understand why he was cautious or nervous, because I did tell him that I had recently ended a relationship, right, with a guy. And I didn't give him too much detail about, the dynamics of my relationship or anything, but I did tell him that I was coming out of a relationship. Relationship had ended at that point. And he was coming to visit me at the same place where me and my ex-partner had lived, right, in Hollywood, California. And so he was just like, oh my gosh. He was like saying it as a joke, but also kind of like fearful too, like looking around, checking over his shoulder, like, oh, he was like, oh, is that him? Is he coming? Is he coming? I'm just like, listen, if you're that goddamn afraid, like, you can't do this. So that was obviously short-lived, right? That didn't last long. And then I remember dating this, what would I call it? Like, real estate investment banker. Basically, he owned a lot of commercial properties throughout Los Angeles, or more than the average person, I would say, right? Particularly like in downtown LA. And he was hyper focused on his like portfolio, right? His real estate portfolio, his investment portfolio. And that's all good and dandy. Listen, I'm attracted to people who are high achieving people who are successful. But when it comes down to the actual romantic attraction and building, that interest in a partner, that's not something I want my relationship to be centered around. And I realized with him, like, every conversation always resorted back to that. Maybe it's similar to the whole aspect of how men say, oh, they don't care about a woman's degrees, right? So if, let's say for me as a woman, obviously I have a PhD, I'm a licensed psychologist, I even own a couple of businesses. Like, if the conversation kind of comes back to, oh, my work as a psychologist, whatever, in some way, shape, or form, that kind of comes up in conversation. Like, some men say they get turned off by that. Like, they don't care about a woman's, accolades or her degrees. And for me, it's not that I don't care, but I feel like if we are trying to build something romantic, like, how does that actually happen? How does that happen if you're more focused on that? The focus of the conversation when we're together and even when we're on the phone is always about that. So that was the case for this guy. He was Egyptian, so he was, funny enough, I kind of dated outside of my race at that point. So he wasn't black. He was, the new Egyptian. I would say the new age Egyptian, not not Cometian Egyptian, but he was the new age Egyptian, like Middle Eastern. And he was wealthy. And that aspect turned me off. But I remember, like, when I went to his house, right? And that was like one of our dates. He invited me over to see the Oscars. He was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just chilling. He was like, would you like to join me and we can watch the Oscars together? I'm like, okay. Now, I wasn't really big on the Oscars, and I think that was the same year where Black people were protesting the Oscars because they found out that there was no melanated Black people who were nominated for an Oscar during that year. So a lot of people who had previously would have supported the Oscars and watching it or attending it, they were boycotting it, right? So that was another thing. Hold on, give me a second. get some cranberry juice. And so I'm like, okay, it's something to do. So I agreed to go to his place, and he had a mansion in Hollywood Hills. Granted, I lived in Hollywood, California, like minutes, like literally feet away from the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And so with that, he had paid for, he sent a Lyft to come pick me up and take me to where he lived. And I remember riding in the Lyft, and we were going up, and it's like when you're going up the mountain, the hill, it's just like, you finally make it up to the top. And I'm looking at my phone, I'm just like, as we're getting higher and higher up, the reception is going down on my phone, right? Like I'm losing reception bars on my phone. And I started to get a little bit nervous. And he knew this, so he knew that, of course, most people don't get reception up there. And so being that he's the one who ordered the Lyft, he was able to track it, on his phone and see like where I'm at and, be ready for me when I pulled up, which he was. And so I wasn't even able to call him or nothing. But I remember, like, of course, I knew the address where I was going. And then I get there, and things were going kind of okay. Things were going smoothly. And mind you, he wasn't, like, you got to be attracted for me. I have to be physically attracted to you in order for me to even entertain the idea of a date with you, right? So I was attracted to him, I would say. But then I began to lose attraction, and I'll tell you why. It's just like, it's always something. It's just always something. So I get out the Lyft or Uber or whatever it was, and I go inside his place. Like, he escorted me, inside. And I remember giving at his house, like, sat on a hill, and like from the backyard, you can like look out and see views of the city, LA, right? It was really nice. But he gave me a tour when I first walked in, gave me a tour to try to make me feel comfortable, show me around inside the house. I'm like, okay, he was a bachelor, right? No traces of a woman in sight. And I remember, like, after he gave me a tour, he showed me the outside, the backside. So, I think he had a sliding door or whatever kind of door. Maybe it was a open and closed door, but he went out there, and we went out there, and he showed me like the views, and then we came back inside, and then I sat down, and yes, I felt like, okay, and this may sound weird, and y'all let me know for those who are watching this on Facebook Live or even when I premiere it on YouTube, feel free to let your girl know. But for me, my thing is this. I know some people, they may have opposing perspective when it comes to like dates, like the early initial stages of dating, right? Some women may not feel comfortable going to a guy's house. I certainly, it's a no-go for a guy coming to my place, but I will go to a guy's place because I feel like I'm entering into his world. And through that process, I'm kind of building trust, right? Like if a person invites you to their place, unless you like way out in some like hundreds and hundreds of miles away, like back in the backwoods somewhere, hell no, right? But this is talking about in the context of city. Granted, he was all the way up there, so I ain't had no reception, so that's kind of adventurous, taking a risk. But I felt like, okay, I knew enough about him and knew his name, first and last name and everything, to be able to go to his place. But that's just me, and I've done that even in dating here since I moved back to New York. That's what makes me feel comfortable, like going to a guy's place. And I did that, funny enough, even on my first date for my last serious long-term relationship that I ended in December 2017. The guy who I met here in New York, and I ended up moving to LA with. But that's just my thing. And to me, it also goes to show, for me, this is just how I assess like how serious a guy is, right? Because there are guys who be like, nah, they don't, even though they have their own place, they don't want to invite you to their place, right? And for me, that's like, okay, that might be a red flag. But y'all let me know, for those who are watching, how do y'all feel about that? So I felt a certain degree of security and comfort, knowing where he lives, going to his place, kind of seeing his world. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and then he's like offering me something to eat. Like finger food. I think it was like wine and cheese or something. I'm like, sure. And he comes back to the couch after he prepares me, a glass of wine, brings over, I think, some like cheese and crackers, right? And the Oscars is playing in the background, and then he sits down next to me. And this is the thing. I was turned off. Y'all was so fucking turned off. Like, one thing I do not like is a man who is sexually desperate, right? So much to the point where they don't have discipline over their urges. Like, listen, I'm a sexual being myself, so don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Like, I would say love sex. I don't even like, beyond liking, I love it. I enjoy it, as long as it's the right time with the right person, when I feel comfortable, when I feel like we have a connection established and trust established, right? Trust is a major factor. I'm just not giving it up. That's not the space I'm in. I'm not just giving it up, just fucking. Nothing against those women who embrace their sexual freedom and their, sexuality and are having sex, on GP without a committed relationship with a person. Nothing against that, but that's just not a space that I'm in, right? So, in so many words, what I'm saying is, like, if I'm having sex with a guy, it's in the context of a serious relationship that's, supposed to lead to something, right? So, yeah, of course, I'm repulsed at the idea, or even the, like, approach from men who, like, lead with that, right? As if, like, they're craving it and they just can't control themselves, because to me, that communicates that this is what they do. And I'm not the first woman that they've done it with like that, and that they are indiscriminate in their behavior and their choices to just be having sex. Like, that's risky. Hello, I feel like there's no explanation needed, but I mean, I get it. Some people feel like, okay, well, I'm attracted to you, then I'm just going to run with it, right? Like, let's just live in the moment. Let's just have fun. Let's just do it. But I'm like, I'm not in that space. Like, nigga, I don't know your HIV status. I don't know your STD status, right? Like, we hadn't even got to that point yet. Like, we're just spending time together, getting to know each other. And, like, he was kind of pushing up on me in that respect. And I was turned the hell off. Yo, hold on. I gotta spit. I'm loving this time change that we have. But yeah, I'm like turned the hell off, like, at his expediency and urgency to have sex. Like first he was like, he came down, back to the couch. He was sitting next to me, and of course I'm sipping, and he was really drinking. I don't know what, I don't remember what he was drinking. He was drinking like alcohol, and then he's just like leaning in to kiss me. I think I did respond. I gave him like a kiss, but he wanted to like go into the tongue kissing. And this is just like not even conversation. Like, for me, as a sapiosexual, and this is the reason why the details are important, this whole feel like men miss this. No game at all, y'all. It's just like they ain't got no fucking game. But a man who's intelligent, number one. And granted, yes, he was high achieving. How he get all that money and be able to build the portfolio that he had, I don't know. But there's different types of intelligence, and his, in a dating sense, he was a flunky. I'm like, yo, this is not where you start. This is just not where you start. And I guess even also you can tell based on how I'm dressed. And I don't even remember what I wore, but it wasn't something that was sexually provocative. Not to say that that excuses a man and gives a man a right to feel like he's entitled to have sex, but you can kind of also read based on a woman's body language. What is she dressed like? Is she dressed like she want to come over there and get some dick? I don't think I was dressed. I wasn't dressed like that, right? I'm just dressed regular. And he's leaning in, trying to give me a kiss. I think I kind of gave him like a kiss, but then he wanted more, wanted a tongue kiss. Then, he's like filling up on me. I'm like, hold on. So I had to just like back him away. And it became, for him, his response to me, my phone, I hate this when it does that. It's just choppy. But his response to me setting that physical boundary between us, like kind of pushing him off, saying, hold on, wait a minute, that to me was even more unattractive because he almost felt like, oh, come on, like begging, please. I'm just like, are you kidding me? This is just like, what the hell? Right? So, of course, that was our last day because I'm like, I can't do this. If every date is going to resort to you just want to have sex, I cannot. I don't care how attractive a woman is. If a man cannot demonstrate control over his, sexual urges, just discipline. That to me is sexy. That would make me want to have sex with a man. Like, even though, yes, a man can communicate in so many different ways, words or even with his body language, that his ass is horny. They can be motherfucking sitting at a 90-degree angle, right? But it's how he is able to control that, manage that. What is he doing with that? To me, that's what I take a look at, right? And I've made a video about this before. There's a dance, smart men know this shit, like men who really up on game. No, there's a dance that you play with a woman to even make her more sexually attracted to you. Make her want you, right? Make her dripping wet, right? Make her panties wet. Make her just be desperately dying, fiending for you to have sex with her. And it's the foreplay, right? It's not giving in or rushing into having sex, right? Because you just can't control your sexual urges, so you just have to act on that. It's not doing that. It's just pacing it. Taking things slow, right? And women, we have a way. Like, we're going to communicate and show a man if we want some. Experienced men know this, right? Like, it's a dance. Let the woman kind of undress herself, symbolically, metaphorically speaking, right? Right, and you can see, okay, she's loosening up because, let's say once I came there, right, and I started out maybe sitting on the edge of the couch with my purse still on, which I think I still had my purse on when his ass was all up on me. It's like, clearly, I'm not at that phase yet. Like, you're miscalculating your steps. I'm dropping some game here, but you got, like, grown-ass men. This man had to be, I'll say probably in his 40s. And I was in my 30s at the time. And he's moving his way as if he don't, like, how you not notice as a man at that age, right? But yeah, it's like, clearly my body language is communicating. It ain't the time, right? But then as time progresses and a woman feels more comfortable and she's loosening up and she feels a little bit more safe around you, you'll see her body language begin to shift, right? So no longer is she, let's say, sitting on the edge of the couch or legs kind of tight crossed or, still wearing her bag, her purse, right? She may have taken off her coat, right? She may even have taken off her shoes at this point. My shoes, and none of that was off, right? Like, I'm dressed as if I'm ready to leave still, right? When he's all up on me, kissing me, it's just like, come on, right? So, of course, that was the last time. Because I said to myself, if this is what is like on our first meeting, I don't even want to see. I can't stomach and tolerate anything beyond this. And of course, he was still calling, but it's just like, get the picture. I'm out the one. And there are women I feel like that would be down just because he got money. And I think maybe those are the women he has come across. And that's the reason why he's still fucking emotionally empty. Those men may have a lot of assets, right? But emotionally, they are bankrupt. And that I saw in him, right? And he's trying to fulfill that emptiness by having sex. Like, you're talking to a sapiosexual here, and understand what you're dealing with. It's just, that is a turnoff to me. So that was end of that particular dating adventure. But as I talk about that, it reminds me of a similar guy who was a physician working for UCLA, African guy. And I was attracted to him. It's just like things be going well, and so it's not going well, right? So I was attracted to this guy. We were vibing, but it would seem like it's always a first date. It becomes a deal breaker. Like, they see me and they're like with me. It's breaking up again. But when they see me, like these guys, when we finally meet face to face, it's just like it goes to crumbles because they're not able to control themselves. And my thing is like, what gives you the confidence to think that you deserve some ass on the first fucking date? Not to say that I haven't done that, because it did happen between me and my ex, the one I was talking about that ended December 2017. That was a special situation, but I realized like it was more, I wanted it just as much as he did, right? And he wasn't fiending for it. Like, we actually sat and watched Hidden Colors, introduced me to Dr. Umar Johnson through Hidden Colors. And anybody know the Hidden Colors documentary is very, is very lengthy, right? So it wasn't like a rush. I felt very comfortable. I was able to unwind on my own, not at someone else's direction or urging. Like, you know, some guys feel like they just trying to get you to that point because they are trying to reach a certain outcome. It wasn't like that. It was at my own pace. Dude was clearly emotionally intelligent to be able to read my body language, right, and get a feel of where I was. So that's how that happened. Where I wouldn't say I gave it up. I don't even like that phrase, but we, had sex. We made love, and that's exactly what it was. It was a mutual thing that I wanted to do just as much as he did, right? So yeah, I was dating like this physician guy. He was an ophthalmologist, and I thought that was very admirable. I had never dated an ophthalmologist. I've dated like doctors before, even defense attorneys, but ophthalmologists. So I thought that was, a unique specialty. And the way I even made a video about it. I like the way he was able to describe like his profession and what he does day to day, like the kind of mechanics of his work and what do ophthalmologists study, right? And looking at different disorders that come about due to a disruption with the optic nerve. He was like going into all the physiological, biological aspects of what ophthalmology is. So I thought that was very impressive. Him being able to articulate himself, that shit turned me on, right? So everything it was building up, right, to the first day. It was going good, the conversation going swell, right? And then the first date. And granted, I kind of liked his personality because he was laid back. Not like on edge, right? Because there are men who are just so high strung, like that don't work for me because it gets me anxious, right? And you don't want to see me anxious. Just don't. I talked about, like, for those who really truly follow my channel, like truly follow my channel, they know that I have made a video and talked about my experience as a child having panic disorder, right now. It's well controlled now. I don't take medication, none of that, but I just been able to woosah, being able to mentally and emotionally have control over my emotions. But that could activate me when a person, like a guy, is high strung and anxiety driven. Like, so this physician, he wasn't that. He was laid back. He was humorous. Just, I think, was he Nigerian? No, he was African. I'm trying to remember. You think about like how some Nigerians are. They just cool, laid back, cool, calm, and collect, right? So he was that, very smart, and we end up meeting. And the first date, I was just like, why am I turned off? It's just, to me, it's so disappointing when like the conversation can be going well. They maintain consistent communication via phone. Like we're talking on the phone on a regular basis. You're like, okay, you feel like you got you one. And then it's just like, boom, we meet each other the first date. It's just like, are you kidding me? And one may say, oh, you being too strict, hard on yourself or hard on the men that you date. I don't think so. Y'all let me know, but I don't feel that way. I just feel like, listen, if something you do turns me off, how can I get turned back on? If I'm turned off, right, and I'm not interested, I can't undo that. Like, you fucked that up, right? And that's just what I've been getting. It's just like, how the hell? So he picks me up, right? He has a car. He picks me up. And I think, he allowed me to set the plan for what we wanted to do, right? So he kind of like set the schedule, but he asked like what I wanted to do, what kind of things I'm interested in. Of course, I tell him I'm interested in art, museums, y'all know me, like nature, things like that, right? So he kind of built our day around that. And then, again, what I like is that he brought me into his world. So him being a physician at UCLA, he takes me to UCLA, right? I think this was after we went to the places I wanted to go to. So we did like the California African American Museum. We went to, in that same area, they have a few other museums. I think we went to like the Museum of Science and History, the Museum of Science. And, we were just walking in that space, right? This is in LA in California. And then he takes me to UCLA. It's not like I'd never been there, right? But he wanted to take me particularly to his like department where he works, just in his world, right? That's kind of soften my defenses. So I give him like, cool points for that. Same thing for the whole investment guy, right? That lived in Hollywood Hills, like taking me into his spirit. I'm like, okay, I like that. Show me what your world is like. And then once I feel comfortable, maybe, just maybe, I might bring you into my space, right? If it gets to that point. And so we're at UCLA and we're at like the actual department in which he works. And we're in like this kind of, what I call like a common area, but it was kind of more secluded too. So it wasn't really, maybe 1 to 2 people pass through every hour, let's say within 1 hour time frame. I saw maybe 2 people, let's say at most, that kind of passed through. And we were sitting and it was like couches we were sitting on. It was cool, it was comfortable, it was quiet. I felt like we had privacy. Just to build, get to know each other. He's talking about, his work and what his schedule looks like, blah, blah, blah. He even showed me, like, before we even get to that point where we were in the car, when he was looking for a parking space, somehow it came up where I'm like, okay, let me see who you say you are, right? Because I don't have a problem showing you and confirming who I say I am. At the time, I was a doctoral student in a PhD program. And so he pulled out his ID and showed me his employee ID for UCLA. Had his name on it, full name, his picture, and it had his work title, ophthalmologist, MD. I'm like, okay. So that checked out. So I'm like, okay, everything lining up. We got a parking space, and then we went inside. And then we sitting there in his space where, he works or whatever. And oh, before let me rewind. So when he actually picked me up, right? And this is, I think, after I was living in Hollywood, California. Then I was living in actually South Central LA. So this is after like I had ended up parting ways with my ex in 2018. So we broke up December 2017. So like 2018, that's the year that I actually decided to move to South Central LA, and I was renting a house at that point in South Central LA. It was in a cool neighborhood. They call it the 60s or whatever. They say it's gang infested, but that wasn't my experience. It was cool for what it was. And so he came and picked me up from there. And I remember, like, before we end up getting to the museums and destinations and everything that we were going to go to, like, he was kind of riding slow through the neighborhood, right? And as he was riding slow, he was just looking at me. And I get this a lot, and I feel like, damn, like, dudes be trying to own me with their eyes in a way. They just look at me piercingly, like, with their eyes. From head to toe, right? Almost like undressing me with their eyes. And I'm looking back at him, and I feel like I could find it sometimes kind of intimidating too. I do. Because it's just, it is, so much is happening, but nothing is being said, right? So the energy, and of course I'm an energy. Here we go. Slow connection. What is up with the connection? Nothing. Yo, I don't know. Let me see something real quick. Oh, that's what, 3 bars or 4 bars? I'm missing a bar. But anyway, I don't know why. Maybe I should, before I go live, next time I go live, I'll make sure I turn on my Wi-Fi. Use my Wi-Fi connection instead. So, yeah, it's just like me being an energy reader. I'm big on energy. And it's just like, I'm picking up these signals that he's sending to me as he's looking at me. He's driving slow, like through the neighborhood away from the house where I was staying at. And just looking at me. And then he stops the car. And he's like, give me a kiss. And I'm like, honestly, I don't feel that we're there. Granted, like, this is our first date. This is our first fucking date, yo. And he's like, give me a kiss. And I'm just like, I don't want to kiss you, but I do want to, like, spend time with you and get to know you, let us build. And then we'll get to that point. I just wasn't feeling a kiss at that moment. I just felt awkward that, yo, we driving and you just stop the car and give you a kiss. Like, anyway, so I declined the kiss, and then I can tell he was just like, okay, I'm going to show her, right? So we continued driving. He actually picked up his speed, driving like regular speed at this point. We get to the other destinations, and then we got to UCLA. That was like, I think, the last place we went. And granted, like, when we went to like the Museum of Science, I remember he was actually, because I'm, he's like kind of somewhat in my world, like expressing interest in the things that interest me. I don't think he was particularly interested in that, but he did it because, something I'm interested in, right? So I remember as we were like going through the exhibits, like if I would look at something and comment on something, like he would come over and just like kind of really be in that. So it's like, okay, building, right? I like shit like that. And so we at UCLA, and I cannot make this up. I know, that's why I say, like, I need to write a freaking book. And my autobiography is coming, but we sitting there on the couch, and it's a respectful distance, I would say, between us, right? But then he kind of leans in, kind of same shit that the Hollywood Hills motherfucker did, right? Like, leaning in and was just like, okay, give me a kiss. I'm just like, this is after we, of course, talked for a while or whatever, but he just wanted to act on what he was feeling. And I'm just like, I wasn't there yet. But then I didn't want to like shoot him down and make him feel like, okay, I'm not interested. So I think, and this is something I do. So I was like kind of caressing, I think, his head or something. I leaned over, I'm like, caressing his head and, just showing him affection in that way without kissing, right? And I'm just like, just slow. I like to take things slow. And then he takes a whole bold move. And do you know this motherfucker? I'm like, I know I can be adventurous, but as I reflect, it kind of makes me understand why they say men are more attracted to younger girls. It's not so much that, they are more physically attractive or whatever, right? Physically, better than women who are older, such as myself, but I think their guard is lesser. And they are more open to, as they call it, novelty experiences, right? They're less defensive, and they're just more open to new experiences. And I remember like how I was when I was like in my teens and late teens and my 20s, like shit, I probably would have, right? So thinking back like to being up in the Hollywood Hills, I probably would have, maybe, depends, in my 20s, gave it up, right? Fuck. But nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that now. And this physician guy, just out of nowhere, this motherfucker was bold as hell. Came around and said, he said there's a room with like a shower. I guess like the physicians when they doing like on call, working like overtime, overnight or whatever, they are able to take a shower and they go to sleep. It's a bed, he says. He was like, describing it, he was like, let's go up there. It was like, that's more private. And I'm like, we're fine right here. Like, it's not that many people coming through. Like I said, it was a room. It was a room like the size of, it was a decent size, I would say. And it was couches there. And maybe like I say, we saw maybe 2 people within the hour period pass through, right? So we had a degree of privacy, and this is at a whole academic institution, right? Say UCLA, so it's calm, it's quiet, people in their own zone, minding their business. Like we could stay where we are, but he was just like, let's go there. And I was like, when he mentioned the bed up there, the shower, I'm like, absolutely motherfucking no, right? And he was just persistent. He kept like insisting, let's go up there, let's go up. Like he was like fiending, and that did it for me. That turned me off. Like it was one thing, it was in the car and he was like, wanting to kiss. I'm just like, nah. And he just kept like insisting. That was the icing on the cake. I'm just like, I cannot do this. I cannot. And I felt disrespected. And if I feel disrespected with the guy that I'm dating, that's it. That's a deal breaker. Maybe we can talk through it, and if you somehow are able to recover from that and help me to recover from that, then okay, we can proceed. But I don't like men who are not intuitive or who are dismissive or completely recluse of their actions, and being able to understand how their actions, attitudes, behavior impacts a woman, right? Like if I am assessing, which I'm constantly assessing, right, a man's compatibility and suitability for me in terms of moving forward, building a relationship, building a family. And of course, I study behavior, y'all. So I'm always looking at patterns, right? And being able to predict behavior too. And knowing that, if a person shows up this way, right? And here we are now, like, shit only gonna get fucking worse. It's not gonna get better, right? Like, and just being able to imagine, like, how their current behavior will play out in future scenarios. It's just like, nah, I don't want to do this, right? So that's just kind of the approach that I take. And I'm like, I'm not interested. I shut it down. I completely shut it down. I'm just like, okay, this ain't gonna work. And that's what I said to him. He's like, oh, come on. And he was, kept reaching out, wanting to make things. And I'm just like, if I'm not attracted to you, I was, but then the shit that you're doing is just corny as hell, then I cannot. I can't. I felt like intelligent men, I go back to this, are able to read a woman's body language and just play into that. It's a dance. But if you come in at the attitude where you feel like I owe you sex and you're deserving, you feel entitled, and then not only that, but you're disappointed now, man, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? We're not doing that. And of course, I know there are other women out there, many single women, that may make themselves sexually available to you. By all means. I know my value, my worth, and that's just where I stand. That ain't changing. So the man that's for me, oh baby, I say this, and I know this to be true. We're going to get it in. We'll have lots and lots of fun because I know like what I bring to the table when I meet a guy who is deserving. And we can go there. Listen, some people say like, oh, I'm a freak. I don't label myself as a freak, but if one had to qualify in terms of myself, my behavior, I would show up like, I gotta take it there. I'm a wild little animal when it comes to that point. We're gonna have lots of fun. But I'm just like, nah. I screen guys out and I'm very discerning in terms of who I choose to share spiritual and sexual energy with. And that's just how it is going to be. That's how it just always is. I had a number of experiences. So what I gave y'all 2. Should I give y'all one more? So those were 2, the police officer guy and the, no, that was 3. Wait, I told y'all a little bit about the police officer guy. His ass ain't last long. That shit was very short-lived because he was just paranoid and I didn't like that. And I think part of it was like related to me coming out of a relationship that I kind of gave him bits and pieces of about. So he was just wondering like, oh, where he at kind of thing. And then the other guy who lived in Hollywood Hills, and then the physician guy. I'm going to give y'all one more. I've had a number of dating experiences, y'all. And we didn't even listen. I might do a separate video on the ones in New York City. I might follow up, yo. But it's crazy. So I came across another guy when I was out in LA. And he was attractive. Like, I liked him. He was a former football player. And at the time I met him, he was like into doing podcasts, life coaching, like motivational speaking. He had his own kind of business. Like I said, again, high achieving. That's what I attract. Just successful all around. Clean shaven, like just, the GQ type, right? But behind the surface, people be having issues. Okay, and it played out. And I don't know what it is, but guys feel so comfortable around me to just show up as their true, authentic self. And I've said this over and over in dating, like, I kind of want a guy's representative. I want to go through the honeymoon phase. I don't like, even on jobs. And I ain't the type of person that really like working 9 to 5. But if I'm going to work a 9 to 5, like, damn, can I go through a honeymoon phase? And like that, can that phase at least last? Give me a good year, okay? But these motherfuckers be showing their true colors within the first 3 months and then wonder why I'm out. Wonder why I already start planning an exit. Yes, I'm talking about my fucking job. But it's just like, y'all doing too much. Like, damn, let me enjoy the bells and whistles. And then let shit get progressively worse. I'm okay with that. I know some people say, nah, show me your true colors first. Let me know what's going on. Now, when it comes to, like, you being truthful in terms of, like, are you legally married or do you have children? No, please tell the truth with that. Please don't fuck it up in that way. But when it comes to just revealing certain aspects of your character, if you know, you know what I'm saying? Like, you motherfucker, as an adult, motherfuckers know. That's my homegirl in Cali. Motherfuckers know your dark traits, right? You know your weaknesses. As adults, we know, right? We know the shit that we need to work on. Have a little bit of control. Don't let that shit come out on the first date and we're in the initial stages of us dating. But from my experiences, I don't know if it's because, okay, we're mature now, we're older, but like, I remember like growing up in my young adult, like late teens and 20s, it was the representative, even in my early 30s. And we had a honeymoon phase. And to the point where I could fall in love with a guy and then boom, over time it's just like, okay, damn, you know? I like that. Why? Because it's just like, that's the phase where at least you can just have fun. You can enjoy the person. You can let your guard down, you know, because I feel like, listen, we all come with shit anyway, right? We all come with baggage, or we all come with our own stuff, right? Everybody has their own stuff. No one is perfect. So at least try to contain that shit to the extent where a person is able to just like you and just have fun with you. The honeymoon phase. But no, that's not what I've been getting, like in my mid 30s or late 30s and currently now, right? And so this guy, the former football player turned life coach, podcaster, whatever, this shit was a disaster, yo. That I could probably do a whole video just on that experience alone. But I'm trying to make it short. So we were dating like for a little period of time. And it was kind of like off and on, because for me, I would be like, you know what, I ain't doing this shit. Because like, they show who they really are. He showed his true colors like the rest of them from day one. And I'm just like, I can't. This is too much. What the hell? Like, they got no shame. And so I remember like one of our dates, because he was very creative and he wanted to do the Airbnb, which I was not opposed to, because he lived like, I think maybe 2 hours outside of LA, right? So I'm like, okay, we could do an Airbnb. Airbnb, granted, now it wasn't no cheap Airbnb. Like, he invested and it was nice. It was decent. Got an Airbnb in a very nice neighborhood in LA. And he cooked. He went all out, but that was later. Hold on. I'm jumping ahead. So we ended up, spending time together. And I think it was, no, the first time I think was like actually at a hotel. But before we get to the hotel, right, where we actually spent time together, we went to the W on Hollywood Boulevard. This was like the first date, I think. I think it was the first date. We went to the W, nice little high-end hotel, Hollywood Boulevard, at Hollywood and Vine, right? And that's where we, was spending time together. We hung out. It was nice vibes. And from there, the same night, we ended up going to Hard Rock Cafe right down the street. Now, we get to Hollywood. We get to Hard Rock Cafe. And I knew this is a fucking red flag. Ding, 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 ding. And I even said it to him, right? So we sitting there, we at the table, we're ordering, we looking at the menu. He's looking at in the starter section, right? And my thing is this, like, listen, if a guy, I'm traditional, I'm old school. So yes, I do want a guy to court, to take me out. I can do those things for myself. Y'all see that I spend good money on decent food, nice food for myself, right? My tickets be $80 and up for my food, right? I feel like men, because I get it, some men feel like, well, I don't want to be spending all this money and it don't work, right? I get it. I can see it from both sides. But then that's where you should be creative, right? So it was like we both agreed, okay, let's go to Hard Rock Cafe. We're sitting at the goddamn thing, and I noticed he just kind of focused on the appetizer section, right? Which is okay, it's cool for me. But then it's like the way he ordered. So he was like, okay, we're gonna get, I think it was wings. He was like, we're gonna share some wings. That right there. Red flag. Sharing some fucking appetizer wings. And that was it. That ain't even just like, listen, that was the entree. He ordered some wings, the appetizer from the appetizer menu at Hard Rock Cafe, and that was it. I ain't making a big fuss about it, right? I'm just like, okay. Because I really was feeling him. I really wanted to like get to know this person, right? And see how it was going to develop. So that right there should have said like, hell nah. Because literally, like, that's the boundary he set. He was like, that's it. It's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm not really hungry, so you can eat them. Really, he didn't want to spend no money. And that shit was a red flag right there. So we get the wings. Both of us was eating the shit. His ass was hungry because, like I say, former football player, he was like football player size, right? And it was distributed well. You know, he was definitely taller than me, over 6 foot tall, but you know, he was built, he's big. And so, you know, damn well your ass hungry. And so that was that. That shit kind of rubbed me a certain kind of way. But I'm like, okay, whatever. So then, like, I think the following day, was it the following day? I don't know. So much shit happened in the context of that scary ass relationship. So it was like after that, I remember. After that, because that's when I was working at the prison. And when I was working at the prison, it was a distance from where I actually live in South Central LA, right? So I actually would rent cars just on the 2 days that I would work at the prison for my practicum rotation. And at the time, I was exploring the idea of moving closer to the prison as opposed to living in South Central LA. And so I had expressed that to him. I was like, okay, I had actually booked reservation appointment to view some apartments that was kind of like closer to the actual prison where I work. And so he was like, all right, I can take you. Let's go together. We can go and tour the apartments together. I'm like, okay. So boom, we had a plan for the next date following the night we hung out at the W. We had drinks at the W, and then we went to Hard Rock Cafe. So then, then that day came around, the following day, I think. It's like a Saturday. He picked me up. We drive out to the Valley. That's where the prison was, like in that area where we're going to go tour the apartments, right? Because I had the list set up of the different apartments I was going to go see. And so before that, though, right, it was early in the morning. So before the apartments actually opened, he was like, you want to get some breakfast? I'm like, okay, sure. We go to, what's the name of that fucking breakfast place? Denny's, I think it was. Denny's. And it was his choice, right? We go there, we sit down, we eat. And like, as he begins to like get towards the end, finishing his meal, I was pretty much finishing my meal. He pulls out this conversation out of his ass. And he's like, I don't feel like you appreciate me. You don't value me or what I've done for you. And I'm like, where do you get this from? He was like, because I took you out to Hard Rock Cafe and you didn't say thank you for the date. You just ate the food and then you left. We parted ways and that was it. And I'm just like, I am thankful. I did have to be honest that, well, I didn't, usually I know what I'm used to getting, and I'm just like, okay, fucking appetizer, and that's it, but whatever, yo. So he was like really in his feelings about that. It's one thing, and listen, I'm not the kind of woman that I'm beyond correction. It's one thing, okay, like if you want to mature conversation, man to woman, and put something on the table, I can handle it. I can handle difficult situations. I work in the field of mental health, right? I deal with challenging patients all the time, right? And just working in the context of a team. I can handle this, right? But he was really in his bag, like in his feelings about it. And then he was like, you know what? Nah. Like, it's like he was trying to pull me into this enactment. And that's when I realized it was something underneath the surface. It's something much deeper than what was actually on the table. Because one thing, okay, you can say, all right, well, you would like for me to say thank you, to show more appreciation. I'm like, it's something else there. I don't know what that something else is, but I'm going to find out, because this is just the work I do. Because I'm like, his reaction to even the encounter that would happen the night before, like his reaction to that he's bringing to this date at Denny's is disproportionate, yo. Like, it's like he was, when I say he was in his bag with his emotions, like he really was kind of starting to display like anger. Like, it's more than just, okay, I'm, disappointed or kind of let down. It was beyond that. So he got up from the table. It was like he was trying to escalate the situation, trying to make a scene, like make it into something, right? And I was like, I responded to him. I said, I do appreciate you. And he was like, nah, like escalating this shit. So he got up and he walked out. And then the waiter come and she's like, everything okay? You want me to bring a check, the tab? I was like, yeah. And I said, he's going to pay. We're done, clearly, with our food. He's going to pay. I'm going to go get him. Because one thing about me, listen, y'all. Like, I might show up as I show up, right? I'm a very calm, I'm a nice woman. I can be submissive for the most part. But please do not pull the ghetto out my ass. For those who know. Okay? I'm from the north side of Jacksonville, Florida, Moncrief Road. Please, yo. And it happened. And so I go out there, his ass on the phone, triangulating the whole situation with somebody he talking to, venting his feelings. I'm just like, this is a whole child here. Like, he's a whole tantrum. He's in a tantrum, literally, yo. So he's like, yeah, I don't feel like blah, blah, blah. She don't appreciate me. I'm just like, who are you on the phone with? I said, hang up the phone. And I had to go in my mode. Hold on, y'all. I'm just like, hold the hell up, my nigga. So, at this point, I'm trying to be the bigger person, right? Because you can't have two. And I learned this many times. So you can't have two, especially as adults. Two motherfuckers that's in their feelings, like deep in their goddamn emotions. One of us has to be of sound mind, the voice of reason. So I'm balancing my emotions, because at this point I'm damn near offended and hurt and embarrassed. Hello, like, so I'm outside. I'm like, who are you on the phone with? Please hang the phone up. He's like, I'm not about to pay for this food because you don't appreciate me. And great, like, this is our second date. I'm like, we don't really know each other like that for him to be all in his bag like that. So I'm like, what is going on? You don't appreciate me. I'm not paying for it. I said, what you're not about to fucking do is embarrass me in front of these people. I started going to my mama mode. How my mama is, yo. My motherfucking mama started to shine through my ass. I'm like, you ain't gonna embarrass me, bitch. I'm gonna embarrass your ass. You're gonna go back in there and you're gonna pay. You're not like gonna sit up here and do this. I say, and I did pull the race thing. I was like, come on, man. For all these damn white people, they already think that black people don't pay for their damn food. And you see how many black people in these videos go to restaurants and just blacking out. Like, come on. Don't you have more dignity and more class? Like, we outside of fucking Denny's and I'm having this conversation with him as if he's my little fucking 10-year-old child. I'm like, no, you're going to go inside, you're going to fucking pay for the food, and then we're going to leave. And he did just that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what the fuck I done got myself into? Now, granted, yo, we like 2 hours away from where I actually live. It's a distance. So in my mind, I'm like, okay. This ain't the first time I've been in a situation like this. So I'm plotting like this. I'm not going to continue this shit. I'm like, for me, yes, I work in the field of mental health, but when it comes to my personal life and personal choices, I can choose to not include myself in dysfunctional shit. And I already see, yo, this is dysfunctional. Hell to the nah, yo. And like I said, where's the honeymoon phase? How is this unfolding like this? So soon. This is the second date. He pays for the meal. We leave outside of Denny's, head back to his SUV. Like I say, he's established, got money. We go back to the SUV, get inside. And he's like, all right, put in a GPS where we're going. Meaning the apartments where we're about to go tour. I done been down this road before. You're not going to sit up here and play me, baby. I got to take the driver's seat in this. So I'm like, all right. And I'm on my phone. Like, hold on, let me find the fucking closest transit, mass transit, which luckily they had. It was like an intercity transit hub, right? Because at this point, we outside of the jurisdiction of LA. And the whole completely fucking town. Far the fuck the way out. Like I say, it's close to the prison. So I put in that, I found a little transit hub or whatever, put that in. As he pulling up, he's looking around like, wait, this don't look like an apartment complex. I'm like, no, it's not. I am about to get on the train. No, it's a bus, not a train. I'm about to get on one of these buses and I will find my own way back home. No, thank you. I don't trust my life in your hands while you're driving in this state. The shit you just pulled, like, I don't know. I can't even put it like, what the fuck guys be going on in their mind to think that this is my life, right? There are women that put up with that shit, but like I always say, I don't see how. Because everything is a choice, right? And I always see like women getting online and crying, going through all this abuse. I'm talking about extended periods of time. Not to say it's their fault, but like, damn, where do you take ownership in that? As women, we got to draw the fucking line somewhere. Know your worth and set boundaries for what you will and what you won't tolerate. And this is not just in dating, personal relationships, but also in business. I don't play that shit. When you cross a boundary, you disrespect, that's it. You don't get a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chance. Damn that, because that contributes to toxicity. Life does not have to go that way. Yes, we may not agree on everything. And that is normal. I'm okay with working through disagreements, but what I will not do is sit up here and contribute to a toxic situation, a toxic dynamic. And I saw that had I continued, it was going to continue to build. So this ain't even it, yo. So we in the parking lot of the transit hub. He parked the car. He's like, wait, and I'm, gathering my things, I open the door, about to exit. He grabs me like a firm hold on my goddamn arm and did not allow me to leave. He holds a whole tantrum inside the fucking car. I'm like, I can't believe what the fuck I am, like, how in the hell? Yes, I do get it how women find themselves in abusive relationships. I've been there, right? That's a whole separate video. But god damn, yo, I get it, right? Because you're dealing with a motherfucker, a narcissist. You're dealing with a person that's just abusive, that got unhealed childhood trauma, and all that shit started to come out in that very time. I'm sitting there, I'm going ahead and close the door because he was holding me. I couldn't fucking leave. Now, granted, I could have fallen. I'm pretty strong, despite how I may look. Your girl got hands, okay? I know how to fight because that's just the environment I grew up in, right? You had to know how to fight. And so, but I chose not to do that in that moment. And I'm sitting there And he let go, and he's like pouring out all these emotions. You know, I don't feel valued. I don't feel you care. And then he started really go deep into talking about his childhood and his parents abandoned him. He was raised by some white people, adopted. Like, this is a whole foster care kid. Like, no judgment, but I'm just saying, like, all that shit starting to make sense. I'm like, okay, I see. The fuck? And so he's just like begging and pleading, please, I'm sorry. I'm like, okay, here we go again. Seems pretty familiar. Relating to the other relationship I had got out of. Motherfucker I got away from, tried to get away from, that I was dating here in New York, and I moved to LA. The very reason why I moved to fucking LA, right? To get away from his crazy ass. Same shit in this motherfucker. So I already knew. I knew the signs. I'm like, okay. So he begging and pleading, please, I'm so sorry. Please, just give me another chance. I messed up. Please. Like, telling me his whole life story. I grew up, without my mom, my dad. My mom and dad abandoned me. This whole sob story, right? This motherfucker literally crying. So I'm just silent. I'm absorbing everything. But I still didn't bend on my decision that I had already made when we was in that goddamn parking lot of Denny's, that I am going to find my own way back to LA. And he was like, please. I said, no, it's okay. Thank you, but no thank you. I think it's safer for both of us, okay? Because you don't know me, bitch. I crazy, no crazy. It's safer for both of us to just part ways. And I go ahead and take this bus. He's like, you sure? He kept saying, you sure, please? You sure? I'll take you. You sure? Come on, please. No. I am about to get on this bus. Okay? And we was like in that parking lot for at least minimum an hour, yo. He's trying to bargain and reason. So he was like, okay, well, when you get home, please call me. Please. Just call me, please. Begging, fucking begging. Right? On my way back, I'm on the bus. Of course, I'm pissed. I'm like, what in the entire fuck? We talking about an adventure, yo. This is whole dating shit, right? I'm pissed. Because why am I pissed? Number one, like, I'm a very goal-directed person, as you can tell. And I've reflected over my life to see, and I made a post on this saying that, in fact, I've accomplished more as a single woman than I've ever accomplished in any relationship I've ever been in. Why is that? One may ask. Who's the fucking problem here? I'm not just saying that and blaming it on men to say that men are the problem, but it's just like, what? Men, I think relationships just in themselves can be distractions, yo. So I'm very goal directed. And as I'm sitting on that bus headed back to LA, I'm thinking like, I had a plan and a mission set out. Now, had I just chose for myself to take myself out there and to tour, I would have accomplished my goal of touring and then being able to make an informed decision on which apartment I wanted to stay in. But no. Why? Because I allowed, like I take ownership, accountability, I allowed another motherfucker who I didn't even know, but here I am trying to merge worlds and build a potential relationship with a motherfucker. Guys always ask me, oh, why are you single? You should give guys a chance. And one may say, oh, well, no, that's just a guys you attract. Are you kidding me? Listen, I've dated all different kind of men, yo. It's just, I find it interesting, though, because the people that come from that perspective either have not lived or dated long enough, right? And they may be in a good space in their current relationship or just oblivious and hiding the real deal shit that's going on. But it's a reason why over half of marriages in the United States end in divorce. And you think about, okay, what accounts for the ones who remain married? A good percentage of those ain't even happy. Right? So before you go to point fingers and throw stones, hold up a mirror and look at what's going on in your own relationship. Right? One can look at this through a social context, just the whole shit, throw the whole fucking society away. But anyway, going back to that, I was disgusted at myself, disappointed, like, damn, I wasted a whole day. And this is what happened. This is what becomes of it. And no, hell no, I was not going to allow this motherfucker to take me there. For what? Because I already sensed that, okay, he is controlling. Clearly, the way he grabbed my fucking wrist and wouldn't let me leave the goddamn car, right? And trying to control everything. He controlled how the breakfast went, creating a whole fucking scene and an enactment that he wanted to draw me into. So that was that. I get home, of course, blowing my goddamn phone the whole way. I did not have words for him on my way back home when I was on that bus. But he calling my damn phone, texting, "Are you okay? I'm just concerned," and blah, 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 blah. That was that. He called and begged and called and begged and called and begged so much, eventually I gave in. And we ended up scheduling another date. The whole point of the other date, and this is where the Airbnb came in, was for him to apologize. It was like a makeup date, right? Wanted to apologize. I apologize. Just give me another chance. I promise you I'll get it right. So I'm trying to remember the order of things, because there was one time we had went to, was this after the Airbnb? We were at a hotel. I don't remember the order. Was the hotel before? No, I think the hotel was a final straw. It's a hotel separate from the Airbnb. But the Airbnb came about, right? And with the Airbnb, when we reconnected that time, right? I think it was like maybe a week or so removed from the Denny situation. He planned it. It was nice. Like, you know, it's funny, like, how these men, especially high-achieving men, they have their ways of, they will show up and show out, right? Lay everything out, the rose petals, the candles, the gift. Like, he really put thought, time, and money into this whole elaborate date. Even went out and bought food, cooked, did all this whole thing, massage, just catering, right? And we had a good time at the Airbnb. We made love. Things were just, I was like, okay, I can do this. And then, I'm trying to remember. So, I don't remember the series, but after that, I think the hotel came about. We ended up going to a hotel. And this motherfucker showed his ass. So, it was just like repeat cycles where we at a hotel, we just chilling, vibing, sitting on the bed, watching TV, whatever was going, just vibing, connecting with each other. And I was on my phone. And at the time, I had a best friend, a male best friend, who had been my best friend for many, many years. We did date for 5 of those years, but like over 10 years we were best friends. And this person lives in a completely different state, far removed from California, right? He's like, the guy, he's like, who you texting? Who you on the phone with? Who's that? He all up in my shit. Who's that? Who's that? I'm telling him, this is my friend. I even show him my phone. And I was like, I could call him, but he didn't like that, right? He felt a way about that. On top of that, this motherfucker, because I was like, hold on, like, I think this was before we got to that point, but I was just like, we had agreed to, okay, let me see more about you, right? And so then he began to pull up on his phone a video of his house, right? He can watch his house from his phone. He showed it to me, showed me the driveway, showed me the front. So just trying to, rebuild the trust that had been shattered, right? And I was like, okay. And we said we're going to show each other our driver's license, our ID, right? Driver's license. Just to, rebuild the trust, right? And that's where he reneged. And around the corner from that place where we were at was like a wine tasting cellar or something. No, was it wine or was it beer? I think it was beer. It was a beer what do you call it, a beer place where you go beer tasting or whatever, right? I think they actually made the beer there, and it was around the corner. So we walked over there, and that's where we had that conflict, because I was like, okay, I can show you mine. Let me see yours. But he was hesitant. I'm like, why are you, what is the deal? What's the big thing, right? So after that, we went back. Yeah, we went back to the hotel, and then that's where he was like looking at my phone. And I was like texting my friend, and my friend was texting me, texting each other back and forth. And then he got upset about that. And he had a whole fucking tantrum. A whole tantrum about that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to show this motherfucker. Because one, like, you cannot do this shit to me, right? I'm about to show your ass. And I did exactly that. I showed his ass. And I don't tell my moves. I just move. I learned at a very young age. You got plans, just go ahead and do it, right? You got to make some moves. Sense of talking about it, sense of threatening. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to leave. Nah, I don't do that. When you wake up and look around and bitch, I'm gone. Point blank, period. That's how things go down with me. And that's exactly what happened. And he was just like, what the hell? I was like, where are you going? So I think it was that following morning, because he showed his ass at night. I got up, and I'm an early riser. And when I got my mind set on something, I'm very meticulous about how I move. And so I got up, packed up my shit, I showered, everything, got dressed. He thinking that, okay, it's just regular routine. I was still going to be with him. Hell nah. Nigga, I'm packed. I called my lift, and he like laying in bed, because his ass a late riser. And he looking at me like, where you going? I'm going away from here, because this ain't it. And I'm done at this point, because it's like, it was a cycle, and I'm learning like, okay, either I continue to stay in this adventurous, toxic ass relationship. And yes, those things can be very exciting, because it's just like, the makeup phase, right? The cycle of abuse. What they call it, when they be showering you with all these compliments and praise and all of this, right? And adorning you with all these gifts. But then the abuse happens, and that's how they get you locked in, right? And it's psychological, because then your brain becomes adapted to this cycle, where almost it expects like this rise and cortisol and adrenaline and all those fucking hormones that get released. But then boom, you shower with these gifts. So that's the dopamine release. It's like your what they call it, the dopaminergic brain pathway that is linked to substance abuse is the same pathway that is linked to psychological, emotional, physical abuse, right? Like just domestic violence. And your body kind of gets acclimated to this and damn near expects it, right? It's like you're feeding for it. And I was very much well conscious of this as it's happening. I'm just like, hell no, I can't. So at some point, you have to draw the line and just walk away at all costs. And I had to block his ass. He was like blowing my shit up, calling, blowing my motherfucking shit up. But nah, I'm not giving in. I don't care how much you beg and plead. I don't care how much you want to shower me with all this bullshit. This motherfucker is toxic as hell, and he need work, serious fucking work. And I remember when one time we were kind of in a space where this motherfucker had a tantrum, showed his ass, and he goes and he's on his little podcast shit, talking shit. Of course, he didn't mention my name, but he was referencing like a conflict we had. And I'm just like, this motherfucker. But the thing is like, as women, if you're not careful, and it can be a man or a woman, right? But I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a woman. If your ass ain't careful, because I know a person like me, like that's how you end up in jail, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Like you got women that, yes, they get abused and they tolerate the abuse and they just become a victim. Some try to fight back, but you can also end up on the other side and end up in jail, right? Because you got some police that will side with the aggressor. That shit didn't happen to me with my ex-partner. The one that I ended up leaving, New York, moving to LA. We were in Hollywood and the police was called. They show up. Actually, they wasn't called, but it was in the vicinity. And boom, it was just like a match made in heaven, right? Where this shit was happening and boom, they were in the vicinity. They showed up and responded. And for a split second, this motherfucker was like, my ex, he was pretty ingenious. Like, he was in a way where he would be like, oh yeah, he always throw that, oh, I'm former military, right? I'm former military. And so that's his end to connect with the officers. This is all about manipulation. And so he almost kind of had the officer hooked. He damn sure had NYPD hooked when we lived here in New York. That's a whole separate story. But when NYPD responded one time, using that whole thing, I'm former military, right? He had these motherfuckers take off their shoes. He was like, I don't allow any shoes in my house. You got to stay at the door or take off your shoes. Police officers taking off their goddamn. These, like, I think 3 men responded. And they like, oh, nice TV. Because in the house, like I said, high achieving. Of course, it got money, right? Big ass screen TV on the wall and shit. That's the first thing they noticed. Meanwhile, this is a whole domestic violence call here, right? So he had his way of being able to connect before I could, right, with the officers. And of course, psychology, anyone knows that influences their perception, their perspective over the situation. Because we're human beings, right? And so they develop this unbiased or biased, shall I say, perspective. And so the officer is like, oh, well, when he was meeting with me one-on-one, he's like, well, I hope this isn't one of those situations. I remember one of our brothers, right, in the force, that happened to him where, his female partner called, blah, blah, blah. They responded, and it turns out it was her, right? So they already kind of came in with this biased perspective, and I'm just like, no, that's not the situation. I'm like, this motherfucker know, like, I ain't even have to let him know verbally. Like, physically, you look at myself. Look at this motherfucker. Who has bruises? Who don't have bruises? Like, they took pictures of bruises on me. So I'm just like, are you kidding me? But anyway, that's a sidebar. To say, like, as a woman, like, women, it's in our power to set the goddamn boundary with people, with these men. Or other way around, could be the other way around, right? Anyone. When you recognize certain signs, and yes, it can be exciting, it's adventurous, it's fun, right? And yes, there could be an aspect of us that attracts that likes that kind of shit, but then hell nah. When it comes down to your well-being, your psychological safety, your health, like, hell no. Some things are just a deal breaker. And yes, there are early warning signs. But that's just it in a nutshell. I don't know how long this video, y'all been going for a minute. And that's just 4. But I've dated, but in this video. But yes, I've had some very adventurous, and that don't even touch the surface, yo. And that's just 4, but I've dated, like I say, many different men. And at this point, granted, that when I say my last serious long-term relationship, that was a guy that I'm referring to that I met in 2014 when I first moved to New York City from Atlanta, Georgia. And I ended up leaving New York to get away from that toxic shit. Moved to LA. This motherfucker followed me out there, literally. Like, packed up the whole apartment. Shipped the whole apartment to LA. Like, that's how crazy this shit was, right? But that ended December 2017. And then since then, I went on several dates or whatever here and there. And that's just a little snippet of those experiences. Adventurous, crazy, I shall say. Just weird, Even, I didn't talk about the defense attorney, but I met a defense attorney down there on some other shit. Just crazy shit. yes, I do. I mean, who doesn't like excitement? Of course I do like excitement. I don't like anything boring. I don't like passive men. I wouldn't say I like aggressive men, but I do like alpha men. It just so happens that a lot of alpha men, like men who are the head of the pack, right, who are high up in hierarchy, right, in our society, who have that power or perceived power, right, in our society, who have the resources, you know, those are just so happen to be the kind of men I'm attracted to. And alongside that, oftentimes those be the very men that be motherfucking abusive. So that's the whole side of that coin. And the irony to it is that, yes, there is a component within me that stems back to my childhood and just my nature, my biological makeup, that I do like being spanked. Like, I'm a masochist. I identify myself as a masochist, so I do, yes. But that's only within the context of a mutual understanding and agreement and a controlled environment, not out of control. I do not like a man to put his hands on me when he is at the point where he has lost emotional behavioral control. That is unattractive and that is dangerous. No, this is in a controlled environment where a man is, calm, he's not upset, he's not angry, he's not in response to any conflict that we've had. It's just, a way of him disciplining me, so to speak, right? So yes, I do like that, and that's where it gets tricky. That's the tricky aspect of it. So yes, I own my responsibility, my role in every crazy or adventurous situation I've been in. I don't attribute blame fully to the other person, but I have to say, to their point, yeah, them motherfuckers be some weird, crazy motherfuckers. And since then, I have dated like here in New York City. That's a separate video. I'm not gonna do that here in this video. But in terms of serious long term, my last was December 2017. And now I am sexually abstinent. I've been abstinent since January 2021. It's a very deliberate, conscious choice that I've made, that I've committed to abstinence. And just taking things slow and not repeating abusive, toxic cycles, getting myself involved in that, especially at the point I'm at now. Like, I have too much to lose. I've always had a lot to lose, but, as I continue to excel and rise up the socioeconomic ladder, yeah. So, but who knows what the next dating adventure will be? Who the hell knows? On that note, I will catch you all later next time. Hopefully I can remember to connect to my Wi-Fi, because this has never happened. I don't know why all of a sudden it's saying slow connection now. And I've been going live since 2016. But anyway, feel free to drop your comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.